Hey, that's pretty good. The Raptors defeat the 6-1 Dallas Mavericks, 127 to 116. Probably the Raptors' most sound win so far of the season. I think that's by far their best half-court performance. It was also against the 6-1 Mavericks. Mavericks are a good team. It's a really good win to get. Actually, they tied their best half-court game,
Yeah.
right on the dot, 100 points per 100 possessions. And as far as like the defense on Luka, pretty good. You know, Luka had his way at the end, obviously, just kind of like slithering into the lane. But overall, I think that they forced like OG was meeting him really high on the court. They wanted to dictate which side of the floor he was getting to. They did a really good job of limiting Kyrie. The rotational stuff was really sound. This was the first game, maybe, that we saw Scotty didn't really have the jumper going, but he still managed to completely dominate the game from the defensive point of view as a playmaker against zones, as a playmaker out of the post, and as a guy pushing pace in transition. OG was phenomenal. Luka folded him a couple times, yes, but for the most part, really impressive on defense, really impressive on offense. The Raptors, they coordinate for what I think is their best win of the season, and obviously, couched into all of that, Pascal Siakam was extremely good. This is something that people have been talking about, myself included. He hasn't gotten that many post ups with the Raptors not shooting super well to start this game. They went to the post more often, and Siakam, he beasted and feasted in there. Joining me, Esfandiar Baraheni of the Steve Dangle Podcast Network, of
Hello,
the
hello.
goes to the arena after every game. Although I heard the thunder. I
Not
heard the
today.
thunder.
Not today.
I
Yeah.
heard the lightning. Well, you don't hear lightning. I saw the lightning and I heard hail all day. You're
Yeah.
here to talk hoops with me. How's it going, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thank you for having me. Appreciate you.
Flashbulb moments.
Yeah.
What stands out for you?
I mean, a lot of what you said, you highlighted a lot of the things that I probably would have reiterated, so I don't want to reiterate too much, but I completely agree with you that Scotty was incredibly special. And if you're going out and saying, "Oh, well, he missed shots," he was maybe I think in the first half of the game he wasn't as assertive as maybe you've conventionally seen throughout the season. Still finds a way to impact the game in literally every other facet. You mentioned the playmaking, you mentioned the defense. I thought he was just everywhere in that second quarter, especially with that bench unit. Him and Otto Porter Jr. were just mucking up tons of actions. OG Anunoby was mucking up a ton of actions. It was special from his perspective. And yeah, we can probably get into Pascal and how good OG looked and just in general the Raptors' defensive performance against Luka. But from what you said, the one thing that jumps out to me is like, if we're gonna be happy when Scotty scores 30 points and does, all the like scoring output stuff, we also got to be happy with these type of performances, which is like at his best, I think this could be a floor for
Yes.
whatever he becomes. And yeah, that was really special.
The biggest thing, obviously, is that so here's the stat line: 14 points, 14 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 steals, 2 blocks. Tied Siakam, I think, with a team high +9 or OG. When I was going over the stats, I don't quite remember, but
OG, yeah.
yeah, we're
And Gary
looking
Trent.
at hell yeah, we're looking at a guy who had been shooting an unbelievable had unbelievable efficiency on his pull-up
Yeah.
jumpers. From the mid-range, I've cited these statistics before. We're talking like above 65%. From
Mhm.
three, we're talking 38, 39%. This would put him in the class of like Kevin Durant as far as wing shooters. And
Higher, like, which is
yeah,
ridiculous. Yeah.
and it's probably not going to stay there. He has his game where the jumper doesn't go. Guess what? He gives you the stat line I read out before. He and no empty calories on these because sometimes like a guy will get pressure on the trail on a pick and roll. Sometimes he'll dribble it off his foot. Whoever picks up the basketball, that's a steal.
Yeah.
Scotty is like disguise double, blitz a guy, steal. Read a passing lane, jump into it, steal. Active hands after somebody picks up their dribble, steal. The block, he's he's managing the 2-on-1 situation, trying to like, okay, roller, no, ball handler, what's going? And like that quick jump, he goes up and like just cleans it off the glass. It's like this guy, the
Yeah, he has great
defense.
timing with those. I was looking back at the Minnesota game and the bulk of his blocks were, I'm going to time this guy's
Yeah,
drive and just anticipate that block shot. He's if he picks that up more consistently and like just does it every game, it's going to be so special on the defensive end. People hate the Draymond comp, but this was a very Draymond-esque game. And like, I'm not saying that's what he's going to be or whatever, but just in the way that it wasn't the scoring that popped out to you. It wasn't his shooting or anything like that, but just the fact that his playmaking popped off of the chart. I thought some of the reads that he made in the second quarter with that bench unit, getting Malachi Flynn open, getting Gary Trent Jr. open in transition, pushing it in transition a lot of the times. Those are things that, hey, they might not pop up on a box score, but they also set the tone for what this game was, set the pace. And the pace of this game was amazing through, I guess, like the first 3 quarters until the fouls started to rack up for both teams.
And the quick jump means that you have more room for error in timing your jump. Like there are some slow jumpers who you take those long steps. I know you just saw Lewis's comment as well. We didn't dress the same on purpose, I promise. But anyway, you mentioned Draymond Green.
Yeah.
It's the cool thing is that when Scotty doesn't have things going, he can slump into the Draymond role. And when he does, he can elevate way past it. So having that now defensively, he's not truly at Draymond's level, not yet. Draymond's one of the greatest to ever do it. But like, damn, man, the baseline performance from Scotty this season has been incredible. We also have Nigel Nicholas of Raptors Republic hopping on to join us. Nigel, how you doing? Big thoughts about the game we just saw.
Boys, how are you? What a great game. Loved every moment of it. We won. You know what the best part about the whole thing is? Remember last year when Siakam went down? This is the revenge game, boys. It's all happening. Symbolic of the next charge to come.
Very nice.
Do you have a favorite performance from this game, Nigel?
Well, okay, so OG has just been outstanding on both ends of the court and magnificent, to be honest with you, I would say. Pascal, nice to see him come back with the energy today. Offensively, he just looked like he wanted to be the man again, and it was a beautiful thing. But it was Gary for me because you know what? The kid came back and he pushed and he pushed, and the first couple of shots didn't go down. He went to the basket like I've never seen Gary go to the basket for 2 shots at the rim, and then the 3 started falling. It was what we need right now.
And pretty good ball pressure. The X-outs were on point. When they were deciding to blitz the ball handler, it was on point, active hands, trying to like attack the dribble when it's low, because like when the dribble's high, you time it so when it's about to go down. And he has a really great sense for that. And yeah, Gary is a really great shout. Let's talk about Pascal though. We haven't really talked about him much. This game, he goes for 31 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists. He was 15 of 25. He missed all 5 of his threes. He went 1 for 4 from the free throw line, putting him at 71% on the season. But more than anything, in this game alone, I think he got 75% of his overall post-ups. Like he matched that on the season. I think he was close to, it must have been like 30 on the season. And tonight he gets maybe 18, 20, 22 post touches. And the Mavericks had no recourse for what he was doing down there. I kind of brought this up. I was looking at all of Pascal's. Well, I've kind of been pouring through everybody's on Synergy, the film. And Pascal was a guy who had missed a ton of layups in this season. And the spacing doesn't help when you're driving from above the break, but had just uncharacteristically missed them. Tonight, he hit all of them. I think he had 12 layups in this game. It was absurd. And none of them are rimming out or rolling out. They actually they bend as if the magnetic pole is friendly this time instead of away from it. Does anybody have any Pascal thoughts after the tough start to the season to kind of bounce back now?
You mentioned the shots not rimming out. I also think the fact that just to put it out there. By the way, incredible performance from Pascal. I will say Mavs didn't have Derek Lively, so there was no real rim protector in this game. And everybody,
why you gotta spoil that?
I'm just saying.
Why you gotta spoil it?
I'm sorry. Everybody was cooking on the inside, though. Literally all of the Raptors were cooking on the inside. I think when I checked in the second half, it was 64-20 for points in the paint. 72-40 was the final for points in the paint for the Raptors. 72 of their 127 points. That's big time, big boy, big body stuff in the paint. So I don't know. I agree. I think Pascal was awesome. He did what he had to tonight. Yeah.
There's a lot of transition in this game, and basically
Sure.
none of Pascal's layups came in transition. Like your rim frequency will increase with transition, but Siakam, I think 10 or 11 of his were in the half court, which
Yeah.
super big deal for a game they're not shooting the three very well. But I mean, Derek Lively not being there, we've got, a few game sample of him being, important to what the Mavs are doing. A big man is always going to help. Some of those like little turns into the lane, the little baby hook, maybe the pressure on that is a little bit different if there's a big man coming over. But you play who's in front of you. He's probably glad that he was seeing, I don't know, two guys who didn't even measure up to what Wemby was last game tonight. Nigel, maybe your context won't be a downer like S's. What
Yeah,
did you
I know.
think
I
of
can't
Pascal?
believe S. Why'd you
I'm
bring this
sorry.
guy on the show? Why'd you bring him on the show, Samson?
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. He was great. He was awesome. He did what he had to. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, a little late now. A little late. Yes. 20 shots, only 5 at the 3. 0 for 5 at the 3. He's been settling for, well, I don't know if he's settling by purpose. He's 1/3 from mid, 1/3 at the rim, 1/3 at the 3-point line. We saw him attack a lot more, and that's where he's best at. And it's nice to see him do this. It's nice for the team to recognize this is where he needs to be. And I'm really, really happy, and I'm hoping that this is back on track, and we're going to see a fantastic rest of the season from him.
It's something I watched all of just over the course of today. I watched all of Pascal's pick and roll possessions, which have been going awfully so far. And the big problem so far has been that Jakob is actually drawing a tag, and Pascal hasn't been making a lot of the skip reads that are there for him. And he's kind of been stuck in trying to make something happen in a collapsed lane, or he's trying to go above the break. And a lot of the defenders are reading that pass and kind of trying to stick to it. And that's something that Siakam, who has been a well above average pick and roll player in the past, has to get a little bit better at, knowing what read is, he's seeing before him. But today he didn't have to worry too much about operating above the break. That's what changed his game. I think more so than the Mavericks, who they play in their front court, more than anything, because Pascal's post-ups were extremely efficient coming into this game. Against anybody that they played, big teams, this is where Siakam is at his best, kind of dominating in that space. And when there isn't that much spacing, the slower you play, the more you can control teams that pack the paint. And so Siakam did like a masterful job of knowing when the doubles were coming, sometimes dribbling out and initiating back to his ISO, sometimes getting rid of the ball, but more than anything, being aggressive. The touch was back finally. And that's like the number one thing. I mean, it was a very, very impressive game. The 3-point shot needs to come around, though, obviously. 0 for 5 and 1 for 4 from the free throw line.
Man, look what you done, Ness. Now you got Samson on the whole thing now.
No one hit their shots tonight, though. No one hit their shots tonight. It was they had to focus on getting inside because the shots just weren't falling, especially early. I don't know, man. Look, I agree with you. I totally agree on everything Pascal related. I thought he was special tonight. I thought, even though you said, most of the work that they've done wasn't in transition tonight in the post, I thought he was great at doing the early work of like hunting out the smaller guy. And yeah, I mean, Tim Hardaway Jr., guys like Grant Williams, even Derek Jones Jr., he cooked Derek Jones Jr. in a lot of those post-up situations too. So I thought he was great. He was awesome. I was just putting out the context that, the Mavs might be missing something,
It's no recourse for him. Nigel, if you have volume on your mic, maybe turn it down a little bit. The chat says it's peaking if possible.
How about that, guys? Tell me if it's better.
Yeah, probably good now. Regardless, though, we have a win to talk about. Let's talk about defense. So this wasn't like the biggest game for the Raptors, but I kind of want to focus on, we've talked Gary, we've talked Scotty, we've talked Pascal, OG Anunoby. Overall, what have you thought about, maybe even we can extend it a little bit more than the Luka matchup, but the first start of the season, we're 8 games in now. What have we thought about OG being the Raptors' main point of attack and just like completely being able to anchor the defense at the front of it?
Sorry, I just saw ridiculous lightning. Sorry, go ahead. Yes, go ahead. It like shocked me. The room turned white. Okay, yeah.
Sorry. That's what teams have been seeing when OG steps on the floor, man.
There you go. There you go.
Nice segue, boys. It's like you're journalists or something like that. I like it.
What do you think, though?
I love everything about him right now. This is like everything we wanted him to be. So if a couple of things are wrong with the turnovers, a little bit, creation isn't what we hoped it was going to be, but this is like a fantastic, fantastic shell of what we've got now. And I'm very, very happy. I couldn't ask for anything more than what we have right now.
It's
I-
been
And I'm very low usage too.
yeah. It's
I'll just say real quick, I loved what he did offensively today, in terms of attacking closeouts, just like exploding out of closeouts. You love to use the phrase "shooting the gap" or punching through gaps. He was punching through.
baby.
He was punching gaps like crazy tonight. And yeah, I mean, he was awesome on the offensive end. The shot wasn't falling as much.
That dunk.
Yeah.
Remember that dunk?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
a couple. The alley-oop that he had the dunk attempt that turned into free throws. He was just incredible, an above the rim player tonight for a lot of these possessions.
Who would have thought that though, right?
Him.
Who would have thought OG above the rim player, right?
Hey, he's athletic, man. He
Oh.
can. It just sometimes you got to give him a runway. And I thought, I don't know, like people like to bring up the whole balance thing with him, and this was he's been pretty balanced all season, in my opinion, on those drives.
He was the worst balance actually was my goodness, I think it was Pascal. Like Pascal, when he fell over on that fast break against the Spurs, I was like, man, this is a tough look. He turned around. OG has been like, he scores 26 points tonight. That's his season high. Siakam scores 31. That's his season high. You get 18 from Schroeder, who maybe on the primary actions wasn't getting the Raptors into anything really. Wasn't getting much of a head of steam off of the pick and roll. The Mavericks were pretty good at kind of like stepping up to the screen, bringing their people back up and saying like, if you want to make the skip pass to beat us in the pick and roll, that's what you do. But as far as like, if Schroeder ever commanded the switch, really good job of like dribbling it back out, pressing that advantage immediately, getting all the way to the rim. This is also a guy who it helped certainly that the Mavs don't have their elite. Well, maybe Lively isn't an elite rim protector, but they don't have their typical rim protector. And Schroeder, like in the mid range, had some buckets that he made, a little bit of shooting. 1 for 4 from downtown isn't incredible, but just overall, he was the guy who he saw Pascal early. Okay, go get your position. We're going to work hard to get you the ball where you can score, where you did score. Scotty doing a really good job of that too. And Pascal knowing like, I have a big advantage in this game. I'm going to go and press that to keep the offense alive while we're not shooting that well. So all three of those guys have a piece in commanding where this offensive performance went, just in how they tried to command it. And then all three, differing degrees of effectiveness in shot making. And OG and Gary reacting off of them, both of them did phenomenal. OG with 26, Gary with 16. They combined for 7 made threes. Coming into the season, I think that's probably what most of us were expecting. Pascal and Scotty, they go 0 for 9 together, and you get the 3-point shooting from Gary and OG, whereas like in past games, it's been like Scotty getting the ball and saying like, hey, I'm the shooter actually. And everybody's like, hey, man, I guess do it. Like, do you guys hear that? He called his own step back. You tweeted about it, as
called his own step back. Yeah.
Incredible. The offensive process. I think when they played the Bucks, they shot 40% from 3. And in this game, they had a really good offensive half-court game despite not hitting threes. And it's because they just, they rumbled into the paint. They made a lot of shots there.
Battering ram.
High volume, high efficiency. That's exactly what you wanted it to be. We have a bunch of really fun bench performances as well. Obviously, Gary, number 1. Chris Boucher was awesome in this game. And I don't know, we haven't talked so far this season really, Nigel. Are you team Malachi? What do you think about that performance walking into these triples?
I'm sick and tired of this conversation. I just want it done. Do you know what I mean? We've been talking about Malachi for how long now? Is he going to be there? Is he not going to be here? What are we doing about him? It's just got to happen soon because, the kid's 4th year in the league. We were talking, I think Jack was gushing about him online today about during the game. And anyone else, I don't think we would got the same amount of gush. You know what I mean? We really want him to get happeing, but
I thought he was good today.
Yeah, I'm saying, but was he great? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Was he?
Yeah, but he's like
for his standards, he was great.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
that's everything is tempered.
But that's okay, right? Like if every single game, the rest of the season, You got what? 15 minutes from Malachi, +7. He doesn't usually win the minutes, right? You get like 8
Yeah.
points, 3 assists. He moves the ball. When teams are collapsing on Pascal and Scotty in particular, he's walking into the threes.
Yeah.
And hell yeah, dude. Like, and also, this isn't ghosts of Fred VanVleet past or anything, but the digs are nice. He put on a little muscle. He can make it work in the paint a little bit more. We still haven't seen anything remotely to Malachi from college, where he was like defensive player of the year for his conference and also be the best pick and roll player in the country. There's not really an option for him to be that guy, and this is year 4. He isn't, but he's finding his way. I know a lot of people who are out on Malachi, but I know a lot of people who game to game say, if we're not trying to get the most out of the guys at the back end, if they don't have, that extra leash to try things out, to grow, to be better, then what are we doing really? We can't just shut it down on them. In a game where you're getting just like post-ups that kill the other team, you're playing okay defense, but you need spacing around them. And I guess the wings aren't shooting the hell out of the ball on this game, right? Particularly Pascal and Scotty. Where do you go? You go away from Pirtle. You play a little bit smaller. You play a little more guard minutes. And Flynn cashes 2 triples. He does a good job. Pretty happy with him.
I think he particularly has benefited from the Scotty plus bench lineups a lot.
I'll tell you this much, and I'll let you go ahead. But
it
seems like anyone benefits from just playing with Scotty Barnes at this point.
No, you're right.
This happened last season.
It's like being with you guys, being with Samson and S. I look like a superstar right now.
Oh yeah, but that's the thing, right? Like it's Scotty having 15.3 points per game in the rookie season, having 15.3 points in the sophomore season.
Right.
That stalled, sure, as the team wasn't giving him a lot of possessions to try things out. But the big change, he started winning a lot more minutes. Scotty's time on the floor started to become like intrinsically connected to the Raptors winning minutes. And then you see the growth in assists. You see the growth in rebounds. And like, how many rebounds a game is Scotty grabbing this year? Is he in? He's in double digits.
Double digits now. Yeah.
Scotty at this point is probably like 20, 10, 6, and what 3.4, 3.5 stocks. Yeah. He's just walking out there, and he is the a high tide lifts all boats. That is Scotty Barnes right now.
That's an all-star stat line, by the way.
Oh yeah. That's Nikias was in here after maybe a couple games ago. And for the people who enjoy Nikias Duncan's work, if you've missed a tweet, he said, book your interviews for Scotty Barnes in February. He's playing like an all-star, like as good as Pascal was tonight. And it's important that these guys both play well. I don't want people to get too caught up on, Scotty didn't score tonight. Pascal didn't score tonight. The team just beat the 6-1 Mavericks. Now 6-2. This is their best win of the season. You want both of these guys playing really great basketball. But that being said, Scotty's been the best player on this team by a healthy margin so far. I went way too long. You were about to say something, yes. Go ahead.
I don't even remember what I was about to say, but I agree wholeheartely. Yeah, look, no, Scotty's been special, man, and I've been going through the tape, the film. It's really good stuff, man. Like, he's doing everything, and we talked about it at the start of this, but even when the shot's not falling, even when the scoring isn't happening, you even notice it through stretches in other games where maybe offensively he's not the aggressor, so to speak, but he's still impacting the game in other ways. The defense probably being the primary way he's putting out positive minutes consistently. And that's a change from the first 2 seasons he's been there. I think just the fact that I don't think he's had a big drop off defensively in any of these games. And whether that be through the weak side, help, rim protection, whatever you want to call it, or just from his sheer physicality, his ability to use his length, deflect the ball, cause disruptions. It just reminds me so much of a lot of the great weak side, help side defenders. You think of like Jaden McDaniels as a guy who just mucks up tons of things on the help side. You think of, I mentioned Draymond earlier, but he's another guy that does that. Scotty can if he's doing this, Scotty can very easily get into that category of defender and be like an all defense type guy if he does this consistently. So I don't know,
like
just
he's there.
star on that.
If this normalizes anywhere, Like the Raptors defense has been good to start this season. If the Raptors defense is good all season, if things are remotely like they are now, OG is going to make all defense first team, and Scottie is going to make one of the all defense teams. You can't look at
Don't
like
get me excited like that, man. Don't get me
if
excited.
you can't look at a guy averaging this many stocks, a guy who's on off
No, you're right.
are this impressive, and a guy who, as much as I dislike the like pulled metrics that are like defensive versatility that are just like baked and all that kind of stuff. I don't like those metrics much, but the people who vote are going to see that on their timeline and be like, he has an A+ in versatility. A+ seems good to me. Like all this stuff is going to point one direction, and the direction is accolades, honoraries, all this kind of stuff. Superlatives for Mr. Scotty Barnes. He's been unreal. He is the guy. He is the North Star for these Raptors, guiding them forward through this season. And he is better. Anybody can say anything. They can say, I saw this coming. I saw this coming. I didn't see anybody predict that. I saw like 112 stat lines predicted next to mine. I didn't see anybody predict anything close to this. And he's just been far and away like the best player on the team. He's been incredible. You can't turn your nose up at anything he's doing. He blows my mind, dude.
When I came in, I heard you guys talking about Scottie's defense. He looked like a safety out there. He was in the middle, and he was just plugging holes here. He was moving. He's taking spots out. Any weakness was there. He was that guy who was putting his finger in the dam to keep it going. You know?
Yeah.
And he was magnificent out there today defensively.
Billy Mays. Flex tape. You slap it on. There's no more water. I saw this boat in half.
Man, that's who he is. That's who he is. Flex tape. That's
plugging away, man. Plugging away. Yeah,
that's the one. I just being able to go out there, and this is always, I tweeted about it. What's the game look like when the jumper isn't there? If it looks like this, good God, super impressive. We talked a little bit about Malachi, Otto Porter Jr. Good defensive game. Quiet game offensively, nothing dropped. He wasn't meant to come in and completely change the Raptors' offensive approach. He was pretty good, but there's one guy I want to talk about. A guy who game to game can be completely left off the map of this team. Chris Boucher. 10 points, comes in 100% from the field, gives them very important minutes against a front court that he obviously felt like he could find a way to succeed against in the Mavericks. Any thoughts on Boucher after this one?
So I'm going to step in for a second. As Otto Porter, before anything else, it was a professional performance by him. He did everything right. Maybe the shot wasn't falling, but it was he stayed in his lane, did what he had to do, and he did it very solidly. Chris Boucher brought the energy, and he brought a ton of it. He was everywhere when he wanted to go. I think when he saw him that wide open three right at the beginning, I think when he first got on, and I don't think I've ever seen him that wide open before taking a three. It's usually up really close. Swish. It was nice. Everything was nice that he did so much today. It was really, really nice to see.
He's impressive.
Especially after sitting on the bench for so long too, right?
And he almost caught that lob. I was like, oh God.
He almost got it. He almost got it, man. Oh my God. Him and OG would have had some these are potential Raptors dunks of the year if it went down this year. Okay, Chris was special, but he usually is. And I do not like the conversation that's like, oh, well, Chris Boucher makes too much mistakes to put him out there. No, he doesn't. Chris Boucher does not do too much. He is so far and away over the last couple of years, maybe the best bench player for the Raptors. And obviously the Raptors bench hasn't been much. He wins
minutes, man.
Consistently.
Don't turn your nose up at it. This team isn't a world beater. Hasn't been for a few years. If a guy wins minutes and plays a lot of them, there's something happening here.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, he's been great. And to the Otto point, I just think he completes a lot of the transitional lineups for this group in a major way. He can close with the starters. He can be in that bench unit with Scottie. He can sub in for a Scottie in these Pascal-led units with Schroeder. I think in general, he plays a huge part for whatever this team is going to be this season. It's not like a long-term thing. I don't suspect Otto to be here long-term, but as far as the current iteration of this team, he is massive towards completing this bench. I'm pretty sure some of the best bench performances of the season have been with Otto in the lineup. And he completes him. He adds another guy. And sometimes another guy is all you need. You know what I mean?
There's a really cool symbiosis here too. Like Jakob plays 20 minutes tonight, right? We've seen a few, like a healthy amount of games already where Jakob doesn't close, where the Raptors are finding lineups. And that's fine because the Raptors have to find spacing, and Jakob, it's tough with him out there. There's a lot of actions that they run, like Dennis getting to the rim late in the game. Oh, some of that is that the big is stepping out while he's screening with another partner, right? He can initiate a switch, or he can reject a screen and get middle when there's a more empty paint. And to see it, Otto gets to play more. Chris gets to play more. Because why? Because Scotty will hold down the glass. And because Scotty he's not everything you need at the 5, but he's a pretty good facsimile of what you're trying to do, right? And then additionally, you have OG, who can guard, he can guard up, but he can also guard down on ball handlers. Siakam, this whole season, has been guarding a ton of ball handlers, has been guarding a ton of shooters, guarding down, and Schroeder doing a fantastic job at point of attack. Very healthy mixing and leaning into of their inherent advantages. When you look at the way that these guys play, what they're able to lean into, I think this season, for the first season in a long time, is where Siakam is asked to do something that's possible and helpful for him defensively, and the same goes for Scotty Barnes. And now they're equipped with, of course, the excellence of OG Anunoby, who always helps you operate from a point of advantage, be it as a shooter, a cutter on offense, or just one of the best defenders in the world defensively. You have Dennis Schroeder, who is one of the stickiest point of attack defenders in the league, who, when he's been one pass away, has been effective on digs. And these guys have just melted together. When they need to play big, Jakob is also there. They're finding something really nice. Everybody's really stepped into as complicated as the offensive start has been.
Yeah. As
complicated as that has been, everybody's really slid and like slouched comfortably into their roles defensively. And it's worked so well. I think everybody expected that, but maybe it looks like, does it look a little bit different than you might have thought?
I think they're probably, there was a lot of talk at the start of the season of, they're probably going to guard a little bit more one-on-one. I think Blake had written an article about how
he's a hack, man.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that this defense is going to use some of their defensive tools, but ultimately it's going to look a little different. And I think that's been the case. They've kind of rested their laurels on their one-on-one defense a little bit more. They're more trusting of guys to guard one-on-one. Yes, they have some aggressive moments. There was that trap on Luka Doncic at half court today that caused the breakout, the fast break. But I think ultimately this team is so talented individually on defense. You listed all of the individual exploits of all these guys defensively, that you can trust any individual player to stick to their guy and be good in their matchup and thrive really in their matchup. I think Darko said it post game, but it's like, hey, you're not going to hold Luka Doncic to 15 points, but OG did about as good of a job as he could have. And I think you're going to get that kind of effort every single night from this team. And zooming out, like big picture, if we were to zoom out a little bit, pretty damn good start to the season. 8 games, 4-4, and you've lost a couple that you probably shouldn't have, but you've also won a couple that you maybe shouldn't have.
I think we're even because
maybe
everything went impossibly wrong against the Bulls, but also Scotty, one of the best fourth quarters any of us have ever seen. I mean, he stole one. Like, of course, the Raptors, Scotty didn't touch the ball to start overtime. They scored 10 points on their first 5 possessions. It went well without much Scotty in overtime, but it was one of the best fourth quarter performances anyone has seen from a Raptor. And like, I can't even think of one.
No,
I can't think of one. Not only because like he was popping off for like weak side blocks, but also because he was, doing a like stab dribble, step back, tie the game. He was getting offensive rebounds out of nowhere, either by like bullying a guy under the basket or swooping in from the 3-point line over Sohan, hitting him in the chest and dunking and putting him in the rim. And it's like it's the mix of beating Wemby in isolation, making him move in the open court, hitting shots against Keldon Johnson like a pull-up, dominating the smaller players, and then giving everything defensively. I hadn't really seen anything like that. And so he stole that one. And the Raptors as a whole, man, they figured out how to give away the one against Chicago. I think we're even. If there was, I know there's the metrics that are like expected wins or whatever. I know some people will say Portland, that was a tough loss, but it felt like they were up against it scoring.
How much has he improved his conditioning? Remember, he left at the end of the year saying he wanted his conditioning to get
asked him
better.
that question, and I was like,
he is to do what he's doing at everywhere, a whole court, running back. Did you see him running back after in transition too? Vroom, 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 vroom. It looked like you, Trey, coming out over there. You know, it looked really, really good. So it's changed.
This game was hard to clip, man. Sorry, Nigel. I apologize.
No. I was just going to go back to what I expected from the offense. I did not expect to see this. I did not expect to see Schroeder playing the way he's playing. OG's taken it to another level, right? Scotty, I was not a believer as this. It was a little disappointing last year compared to where we saw first of all, and this year.
So you're reformed.
Revolution. No, you know what? Everyone has. It's an opinion, right? You look at it.
I'm kidding.
And you see something, but it's funny how everyone does get to that state, right? And I know why you're making fun of the whole scenario where there's so many gatekeepers out there. You either love Scotty from the beginning or you don't love him. You know what? Forget that. You know. But I was not expecting this at all.
It's been endlessly impressive. Like you said about conditioning, it's pretty opaque. This was after Scotty had a tough start to the season, and you know the Doug Smith report comes out about work ethic and all that kind of stuff. Lewis and I wrote this piece. You know, we used to do this thing called the black box report because it's like you have to look deeper. There's something that's tracking what's going on. And I talked a lot about how you don't see reps until the 99th and 100th percentile of your skill. You could work for 2 years on a skill from the 73rd percentile to the 98th, and it won't show up in a game. But then all of a sudden, it's there. And then conditioning, I mean, how the hell from anybody who's not the player do you zoom in and say, this guy has good conditioning or bad conditioning? Like OG has good conditioning, obviously, but he's been fighting muscle cramps during games. He sat to start the fourth quarter against the Spurs because he was gassed. It's like really opaque. But Scotty says, I need to work on my conditioning. He comes back 4 months later. I worked on my conditioning, and now he's like a Hellcat up and down the court all the time. Super impressive. I got to say something. We have a bunch of people in here. Make sure to like the video. It helps spread it. It helps give it to other people. And secondly, we have a comment
boost
just for a guest here. S, really digging the format of your post game, including commentary and interpretation on the post game interviews. And of course, breaking down highlights. Always a plus. Keep at it. Can I say something?
Thank you, sir.
People, if you want to see a video summing up what happens with film, with commentary about the narrative and the storyline of this game, tomorrow morning you will have something from Esfandiar Baraheni on Steve Dangle Podcast Network. Please go and watch. I want to talk about OG a little bit more, please.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, actually, before you say anything, I just want to say, when you're on ESPN Sports Desk, I was here with you, buddy. Just remember that. You got great delivery. No. I love it, man.
Listen, fantastic. I'm just trying to get to where Samson is, man. That's all I'm trying to do.
Okay, you know we're gonna talk about basketball. We're gonna talk about basketball. So, I asked OG on Media Day about what he envisions his role as, and he hit the same line that he's been hitting, and maybe privately a line that he doesn't hit as frequently, but publicly one he's very happy to go to. I'm just going to do whatever I need to do for the team, all that kind of stuff. Well, so far, he has been taking anything that comes his way, shooting 55% from the field, 42% from three. He's giving you 4 boards a game, almost 2 assists a game, 17.6 points per game. Get this, his true shooting percentage is 67%. They are winning when OG is on the floor. A mammoth differential. Like this guy steps out there, you're like, okay, our defense just got way better. He steps out there, you're like, oh, our offense just got way better. He's been unbelievable. Everybody has kind of been kicking around this idea that OG is the glue that ties everything together. And it's very tangible. It has been in the numbers, but a lot of people were caught up on a lot of different things that this team does or doesn't do. both narrative wise and in the reality of what's going on, there's a lot of other conversations happening about this team. If the vibes are better, I believe more people will focus on there being a central theme, which is if OG steps on the court, you feel really good about the time he spends there. And tonight doesn't take much of the ball, but kills it every second he has it. Has one of the hardest matchups in the league. Kills it as much as he possibly can. Yeah, he got bent a little bit. Yeah, he got folded a couple times, but he met OG high in the court to direct what side of the, what side of the offense, what side of the court they played on. He was fantastic over the duration. And I've said this for a long time. OG is a guy who maybe never gets the all-star acknowledgement, but a guy who for a couple years now is giving you the relative impact of an all-star. He is an all-star in everything but name, and probably will be for the duration of his career. He's just he's incredible, man. He blows my mind a little bit.
The one thing I'll say on OG is, and I've always said this, he could score 20 a night on like 10 dribbles. Like he does not, he can maximize the hell out of his offense. And that doesn't necessarily mean that he has to be this on-ball creator. I think, maybe I'm wrong. You can check me on this if you want, Samson. But I think for the most part, he has excelled as an off-ball player this season. He hasn't had as much of an on-ball responsibility this year because Scotty has had more of the touches, Dennis had more touches, etc. I think for the most part, you kind of contrast the San Antonio game and this game. This game, barrels, battering ram to the rim, just absolutely dominating on attacking closeouts like we mentioned earlier. Last game, career high 7 made threes. Mostly, actually, I think all of them on catch and shoot opportunities. Just feasting 24 points right there for you. OG can maximize his efficiency just by doubling down and honing in on this off-ball player that he can be. Like this elite off-ball force. And I agree with you, by the way. I was just double-checking what the point differential is for OG and like where it compares to start the season, but I can't find it yet. So go.
That's something that OG has been for years. A guy who, when he plays within himself, and this is something I think every single one of us has talked about. All the people who kind of look at OG's game with the proper lens, he is so good off ball that he also deserves the attempts to improve on ball.
You're right.
We've had 2.5, 3 years of those fledgling attempts with not great results. But that's the thing. He can immediately just go back to, he can try things, of course. And I'm sure he's going to end up trying things more often this year. I'm sure some possessions will find him in certain spots. But the same way that we see other players struggle to adapt to a role, OG will never have that problem. Like he will be a star in any role that's given to him. And that is one of the most impressive things about his game. And he gets to be the loudest role player if he is doing so because of his all-world level defense. Go ahead.
I just found the stat, so I wanted to bring it up. He is top 5 in the league in plus minus right now.
Where is he in your heart, though?
This is the laugh emojis thing. Not that good of a joke, but you got all the laughs. It's okay. All right. LeBron, Paul George, Alec Burks, Christian Wood, and OG Anunoby, top 5 in plus minus. So there you have it. OG plus 34.
I feel like it would have been better had you not.
If I didn't mention.
How many other players could have had the performance that he had today, as far as locking up someone like that of Luka's talent, and then the shooting that he scored on and so efficiently, so effectively when it was needed? I don't think there's maybe how many couple guys out there in the league who can do what he's doing, if that,
It's like I don't know, like Klay Thompson in 2017. He's like he's not Klay Thompson.
What a name, huh? Wow.
But you have to kind of look back as like who was like such a dog defensively, could take such a I watched all of OG's like defense today basically, and you watch a guy who's like sticking Victor Wembanyama off of pin downs. He's meeting Luka Doncic at half court. He's playing trail defense on Anthony Edwards. He's playing as the dropper against Karl-Anthony Towns and like blocks him after he gets the pocket pass. He's jumping out on guys and punishing their dribble and poking at it, prodding it. He does everything defensively. And while this year Scottie obviously takes the leap as among the Raptors wings, the guy who you're like, holy smokes, this guy, unbelievable, can sky for blocks. OG will continue to quietly, collect his somewhat understated steals numbers, somewhat understated blocks numbers, and he will just continue to line up across from the best player on the other team and make sure that they shoot less, make sure that they score less, and make sure that they have less of an impact on the game. That is OG Anunoby, one of the best defenders in the world. Emma's in chat. Maybe the best in the world. That's for you. But he's incredible, man. I have a tough time framing his game because he's so unique and he's so capable of, mixing into whatever he needs to be. Man, any Grady thoughts? We got some Grady minutes, 6 minutes. Does anybody have thoughts on Grady? I think this was his quietest game since the first two.
Mm-hmm. We'll wait until he starts hitting his shots. I like what he's doing. Literally everything else that he's doing is perfectly fine. I think sometimes, especially today, he got bullied a little bit on defense, but for the most part, I think he's been about as good as you'd expect. It's just the shots have to start going down, and like once that does go down, then you have a new dynamic on this bench that can be really fun to play with and like insert into lineups. So I don't know. I'm not really worried about Grady. I just think, hey, once he hits the shots, then it'll be a different.
To be honest with you, I wish they had waited a little bit on Grady before bringing him in. I know we had to at the time. I wanted to see it being a slow build up.
Look at Malachi, Nigel. Look at Malachi. No, the one thing I'll say about Grady is, do you guys think he'll get any run in the G? Like, do you think they'll throw him down?
I hope so. I hope so.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Okay.
I mean,
come on, Samson. Actually, killing this for me.
Well, the swing. Are you trying to cover a 905 game?
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, if Grady plays a home 905 game, I'll probably be there with you. To be quite honest with you,
that'd be fun. Yeah.
But Grady, I think, obviously, he has to make the shots that come his way. But everyone here has covered and talked about how Grady does everything perfectly except hit the shot right now. Hitting the shot's the most important part, by the way. But he does but you can expect him to hit the shots in the future. And like he always attacks the top foot. He knows where to go with closeouts. He makes good progressive reads. You can bet on him being really good. The G League stuff, I think it depends on Koloko and Precious. Honestly, it depends on how the rotation shapes up, and if the Raptors can look at, like there'll be like maybe 2 games this season where Grady has an opportunity to play the doubleheader or something like that. There might be where the 905 and the Raptors, what they're doing on the road kind of syncs up, and there's an opportunity for Grady to kind of check down to the 905 or something. But also, like, Grady is a duplicative player right now.
Duplicative, I like that.
He is meant to multiply the advantages on the floor and help make defensive miscues. You want to exacerbate them. You want to make them worse. Exactly. And Grady, he wants to help bend the defense past the point of no return as a secondary guy, not as a primary. I think he has to succeed at that first. And I think he'll get more opportunities to do so playing with the Raptors. Like he's getting the opportunities. All we're waiting is for one of the best shooting prospects of the past few years to just hit the shots in game. And I think he's going to hit them. I think that Grady can play at the NBA level. So do I want him to play at the G League? Hell no. Unless you're going Nigel.
Why can't he do both? Nigel. Let him do both. do the old Delano. Do the one in the morning and then one in the evening.
Yeah, I don't know. There might be a doubleheader, but also do not wish the Delano arc on Grady, please.
No,
my guy, definitely not. Us kids from Rexdale, we saw him leave. We need Grady.
Hey, Rexdale reference. There you go.
This is my first one of the season. I've been waiting on this. If there's anybody in chat who has questions for us before we get out of here, I think it'd be fun to answer some listener questions. But another reminder. Hey, we're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. We have a bunch of podcasts, myself included. We have video essays, all that kind of stuff. If anybody's in here, there's lots of good stuff. Feel free to subscribe here or at the website, raptorsrepublic.com. Like the video, all that kind of stuff. Here's the thing.
I wish I could subscribe 10,000 times.
Hell yeah. So here's the thing. The Raptors at 4-4. Let's revisit. Nigel.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'm going to start with you, Nigel. What was your prediction for their wins this season?
40 to 45 in that range. That's where I was looking at originally.
We ended up in the same. How do you feel now after 4-4?
I think it was 45 to 50. That's what I think.
Okay.
I think this team is only going to get better. That's what I think. I think they're just going to start gelling more. And what we're seeing right now, that Chicago game kind of put everything off a little bit. You know, those are two games that really should be on the win side rather than the loss side too. So, you know, I think it's feasible in my mind.
I mean, I would, if the Raptors won 50 games this season, I would have a ton of fun talking about
45 to 50. I said 45 to 50.
No. But yeah, I'm talking about the high
you
end.
said 50.
I'm talking about the high end. And we also had a comment from Latinx Nation that says Raptors will hit 50. So, you know, there's something to consider. How you feeling? 4-4.
Well, I hate to be the pessimist now I had them.
You've been the pessimist all night, brother.
I had you fight this guy.
I'm sorry, man. I had them at 40 to 42, but I think they'll be better than that this season. I could see 43 or 44. 45 to 50 would be a big win for me this season, which means all the things that are happening right now, in my opinion, stay happening and potentially even exponentially get better. Scottie's an all-star this year. OG, like you said, all defense. Maybe Scotty gets an all defense nod as well. Pascal plays like he did today type of thing. If all of that is true, then yes, this team will get to 45 to 50 wins. But
you're telling me,
however,
OG Anunoby makes all defense, Pascal scores 30 points a game, Scotty makes all-star and all defense, that this team will be good?
Yes. Yeah. I know it's such a hot take. I know. I don't know, man. I think 40 to 44 is feasible for this team right now. And yes, I think on the higher end of that is possible. I can't give 45. I can't concede it. I'm sorry.
Hey, that's okay. That's no problem at all. We have a question about the intel on Christian Koloko. I've said this a few times, but I talked to Christian at Summer League, and he didn't expect to be missing the start of the season. I haven't talked to Christian since then. He's an injured player, and I think with something quite sensitive, it's like this is a sensitive thing he's dealing with. They're just taking it day by day. I don't think anybody knows what's happening with Christian, because I think honestly, if there was stuff going around, like it's too sensitive. I think it's just hope he gets better and then finds all that kind of stuff going forward, all that kind of stuff. We have a question, a fun one. I'm going to read it, but I'm not answering this. Replace Schroeder with Fred right now. What does this team look like? Hey, man, I know what you're trying to do. I see you. But the most important thing I'll say is that for this team going forward, all that kind of stuff, Schroeder makes almost 4 times less the amount of money than Fred does. And that's of course, you can't even evaluate without that that being said, you know. We have a question from PJ Priscillus. Hello, Samson, S, and Nigel. Is the spacing much better for the Raptors if there are no rim protecting big men?
Well, spacing.
Can I take the lead on this one? The spacing was not good today, but since the spacing was not good, the Raptors went to more post-ups where spacing doesn't matter as much, because when you post up, you create hard doubles. Otherwise, Siakam's going to get to the hook shot, or he's going to spin baseline and get to, a bank shot or something like that. So you create a hard double where immediately an easier read becomes available. I think something that's really easy to examine out of that is the play where Siakam cuts, Scotty passes it in, Scotty cuts off that. Like, they're swapping these post-ups, right? And it's like when you play and the team fears your shot making, and it's easier to fear shot making when you don't have a big there, the less space doesn't matter in proximity to the rim. As far as like what the Raptors were doing to make the the Mavericks not playing the gaps or anything like that. The Mavericks played in the gaps. They wanted to make the Raptors shoot on the outside. They were happy when the shots went up. But what they couldn't do, since they didn't have a big, was stop Pascal Siakam. And that is that's a big part of this game. So that's where I stand on that. Anybody else have any thoughts on tonight, spacing wise?
I just think it was a personnel situation too, as well, right? It was a situation where Yak really didn't have anyone to deal with over there. Then they had to take him out at the same time too, right? So it was this spacing this time was all about circumstance.
Yeah, I think he got into a bit of foul trouble there too, right? Like, yeah, he had 4 fouls tonight. Luka was kind of hunting him in those pick and roll situations.
Was hunting him.
Like, man, the way he slowed down the pace in one of those plays just to get him in that foul call, like you knew
the deceleration, man.
The decel, man. It was incredible.
A master. Absolutely beautiful to
he
watch.
Really is. He's a wizard when it comes to. Actually, he's a maverick. Esfandiar.
He's a maverick.
Hey, I just wanted to say on the spacing thing. It's like a percentage game, right? The Mavs were essentially saying, "Hey, we dare you guys to go out and shoot these threes and make them." And the Raptors said, "No, instead, we're going to go ahead and dominate on the inside because you guys don't have anybody in there that can guard us." That it's just a numbers game at that point for the Raptors. And like I said earlier, like 70 points in the paint, they carved up the Mavericks on the inside. So it was a fun game from that perspective. Like, this is a different way the Raptors can win games when a team doesn't have that dominant interior presence, when there isn't a Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, perhaps, right? Or a Victor Wembanyama, perhaps. This is a different way the Raptors can win basketball games. And yeah, there's going to be some teams this season that they face that don't necessarily have that interior presence, and they're going to dominate those teams.
So something that's, you mentioned, just for the people listening, S and I play basketball together quite often. And for the people who enjoy Trey, my dear friend Trey, who I podcast with from time to time, the way Luka was slowly working through the pick and roll, I'm not going to say who was at the point of attack on the screen, but I guard Trey because, Trey, he can't really score on me despite here. But anyway, I guard Trey. These guys ran pick and roll. They got a 2-and-1 every time. And S slowly worming his way down the lane. He was getting buckets on us. I was dying, man. I was like on an island every time. It was heartbreaking.
I have to play the big boy game, because I can't beat people with the quickness anymore, Nigel.
I hear you, buddy. You're still young, buddy. You're still young. Don't come to me for help on that one, okay? How good is Curly, by the way? You can tell me. He's not listening.
A shooter,
he's
man.
Not listening.
He's a shooter.
No, Curly is the patron saint of basketball in our group. He sets up the runs. Mm-hmm. He's there all the time. He's so much fun to play with.
He has eucalyptus oil.
Does he? He has everything. He shoots the hell out of the ball, man. Especially since he took the tape off of his fingers. He had a hand injury for a long time. I also see, just to quickly answer something, people are talking about baseline out of bounds plays, sideline out of bounds plays. I can't answer to the efficacy right now, but believe it or not, literally today, Louis Zatzman wrote, and you'd have to be subscribed over at raptorsrepublic.com. It's the best analysis on the Raptors for the people who want to know. But there's a piece literally detailing what types of actions they run, how effective they've been. All I can tell you is that the Raptors, the returns haven't been that good on those plays so far. But from what I've seen, there's been some interesting stuff. I liked a lot of the Raptors twirl actions. The Raptors were the best last season in baseline out of bounds and sideline out of bounds plays. So there's some stuff going on, but we were only 7 games in.
I feel like it's a lot better than when we first started out with some of his ATOs. There, was not quite as crisp as Nurse's for sure. There was a little bit of
It's new players too.
Yeah,
new players, new system, all that kind of stuff. Have we ever tried running Spain in a pickup game? Yeah, we have. We do a whole bunch of nerdy basketball stuff in pickup games. Yeah, for sure. Where are our runs at? Any openings? Message me on Twitter. We're happy to have anybody come through. Samson, do I have stats on Scottie's foul rate? Talk about the Raptors while I looked at, or sure.
No, I have the answer here because I'm working on the piece for it. But his foul rate is lower this season. His free throw rate is also lower this season.
Everybody's free throw rate, man.
Yeah, it's been tough, but yeah, no, I think the foul rate is lower this season, so it's actually he's fouling less. And I thought today, by the way, he did a great job of like just staying upright anytime Luka tried to bait him into anything. Yeah, he gave up a couple of layups because of that, but you rather that and then getting Scotty into foul trouble.
Okay, so you told me, I said, hey, can you answer this? And you said, I got the answer.
Am I right?
It's lower. I thought you'd have the actual number. Not
Oh, no,
only
no.
is it not lower, but I'll give everybody the actual number. His
Okay,
foul
thank you.
percentage currently is 2.7%.
Okay.
Last season it was 2.5%. But given he's lower in the defense, he's attacking more, like he's contesting more shots. I think in proximity to the amount of activity he has defensively per rate, he's committing less fouls. So
I'll
I think
take that.
you're right in a sense.
I'll take
No,
that.
you got to risk it to defend. Like Rudy Gobert, Jaren Jackson Jr., Christian Koloko, all these guys, they come into the league, they foul the hell out of people, but they're getting their hands up against a whole bunch of shots, and that's kind of what they're meant to do. Come on, Nurse had no offensive plays. It was FEV or Pascal go ISO. Here's the thing, man. It's really easy that you can track what happens because after a timeout, for example, or on a baseline out of bounds play or sideline out of bounds play, they say, this is what this is. And then they track all of the plays that come after it. And then you get a points per possession that baked out of that. And for like Nurse's whole time, the Raptors were very good on those. And he did have some pretty slick design. However, Darko is a way better coach for this team than Nick Nurse is because it's important to have the guys like you and to be, personable and all this kind of stuff. So
Good vibes.
it's not like coach versus coach in that sense, but you just have to deal with the realities of it. Anybody else? Anybody want to say anything before we get out of here? It's been like an hour and a minute.
I'm good.
Nigel?
I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. That was lovely. It was great being on here. I really appreciate it. Thanks
Nobody wants to wax poetic. Nothing.
I have nothing to wax. Wait, actually, I do have something to wax poetic on. Thank you to Raptors Republic. Shout out to Raptors Republic. Great live show. All the stuff, all the great content, the video breakdowns, the articles. If you're not subscribed, you should be subscribed. I hope I can maybe you can take this snippet and use it as the opening like P. Diddy does for some of his songs. Just throw it in there, please. Thank you very much.
You want to be the voice of Raptors Republic marketing campaign.
Do it now. You can hate me now.
Trey
I won't
is the
stop
head.
now. Yeah.
Trey's the head of marketing. So I'll run it up to him. We'll see what happens. But okay, to all the people listening, once again, as always, thank you for so many people hopping in and listening to us talk basketball. We all watch basketball together. We all talk about it together. This is like the communal aspect of basketball is the best part. Having everybody hop in and chop it up. It's past midnight, right? We got 280 people in here. We had like 400 earlier. Thank you for popping in. You guys are insightful, thoughtful, and engaging in the comments. Thank you for tagging along. The people listening the morning after, or I guess maybe at like 12:30 a.m., whatever it is, on your walk just before bed. Some people say they sleep to this, which I think is maybe a bit of an insult. I'm putting them to sleep. Who knows?
I'm not gonna lie, it's happened to me before. It's okay though.
And I woke up to your voice. I told you the other day on the Objective Basketball podcast. You were talking about Scotty. Crazy. I woke up. I was like, but anyway, thank you to everybody for popping in. Make sure to like, subscribe, all that stuff that YouTubers say. We're not YouTubers, but we're trying to be some sort of facsimile of them. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. It's been an absolute blast. For Esfandiar Baraheni of the Steve Dangle Podcast Network, head over there tomorrow morning to watch the recap of Nigel Nicholas, who writes and talks about the Raptors for Raptors Republic, and over on you do it with Zazu and
Pro Sports Fan. It's an app. Please download it.
Fan.
Otherwise, I can't make any money off it. Thanks.
That's right. make him a little bit of money, and that's what we're here for. Thanks everybody for hopping in. Whether you got into this in the morning or at night, have a blessed day and goodbye. We got a podcast, ladies and gents. That was a